What is up, guys? How's it going? My name is Bharat, and I'm going to be talking about primarily a very important topic. We're going to be building something called as a functional application, or it's a type of a mobile application where it's targeted towards specific function. For example, you want to build a weather specific function, you want to build a mobile app, a mobile banking application. All of these are specific to our function. So I'm just going to be talking about how you can do that with Flutter. We're just going to go over all the basics of Flutter. We're going to talk about how it works, how it actually runs, and all of that are going to be covered as part of the session. It's also going to be primarily hands-on, so you guys can learn along with me, and you can just understand how everything works. All right, looks fine. Great. Is my voice not audible? Can you confirm again once? Let me check myself. Is it audible now? Okay, I guess it's audible now. So we have been looking into specifically functional applications in the last, not just specific to functional, we just been looking into the basics of Flutter, right? And how you can create applications with Flutter. And I've just been covering a little bit around that area only till now. And what we're going to be doing in this session is we even saw about web application and creating websites with Flutter, and all of that was also covered as part of previous live sessions. But for this class or this session, I'm going to be specifically targeting building an application from ground up. When I say ground up, I mean to say that you can build application and also have a good understanding of how they communicate with each other. So technically, this session is going to be like from the scratch. If you are watching it for the first time, you can still watch it, no problem. I'm going to be giving you all the basics of things and like more of a collection of things that you have seen in the last 3 live streams together. And by end of the session, we will have like a good application built that is primarily using like internet to fetch data and do all of those sorts. So that's the target for this application, and I'm going to be using Android Studio for building that. So this is going to be the basic this is going to be the IDE that I'm going to be using. So I recommend you guys to also have it. If you don't have it, not a problem, right? I'll try to keep this stream as short as possible. So what we have planned along with Unacademy is to have a bunch of classes around the same topic. Instead of having a longer stream, we'll be having to cover bunch of topics, bunch of different ideas, bunch of different concepts that's going to be split across multiple videos. So if you guys even miss this, no problem, you can still catch on with the next one. So yeah, that's pretty much what I have also planned as well. So like I said, we're going to be looking into building functional applications, and just a quick introduction to what exactly is Flutter, right? Flutter is actually a UI based framework that is built on top of a programming language called as Dart. And most of you guys will be like, why is it another language that I need to learn? It's like saying, um, do I have to know this again, or do you have to learn everything from scratch again, and things like that. But one good thing about Flutter is that it uses the programming language called as Dart, and Dart is like it's basically a collection of, and it has basically a collection of few of the popular languages. Like it has some similarity to Python, it has some similarity to Java and JavaScript, and it keeps on going. And that's actually the good thing with Flutter, Flutter and Dart in particular. It's pretty much easy to pick up, and there is nothing complex about it. And it's also like this concept of building a block, right? Let's say you have a Lego set and you have this big base in the bottom, and you can keep on adding things on top of it, and you keep on doing this, right? And this is how the Flutter is also supposed to work. You have a building block, and you can keep on just adding it in the form, in think it similarly in the form of putting one on top of another, and finally you have like a house built and things like that. So similarly, how the Flutter is also going to work. It's basically like a very simple framework. It's a collection of UI widgets that we call. So in this example, if you see, right, and this is a simple application that would have hardly taken 5 minutes to build. And if if you want to build the same application with Kotlin or Swift or things like that, the setup itself would have taken you 50 minutes. And this is actually making it super easier for a couple of reasons. One is that it's cross platform, meaning iOS, Android, anything that you think of, right? You can use it to build it, and there is no like recommendation, there is no like shortage of what it cannot do. It can do a lot of things, and it's still evolving, so you obviously have a lot of things to pick up as well as we go forward. Hi Ayush, what does a continuous class mean? Yeah, this is actually a live stream. This will probably be for another hour at the max. I'm going to be covering a bunch of topics, and we're going to be building things from there. For Apple, the upper notification, meaning this part, this is called as a banner, and it's similar to how the whole thing works. And the Flutter itself takes care of doing it for us. So if you don't have to worry about Android or iOS, where I'm going to render and things like that, the Flutter itself is smarter enough to understand which is the OS that is getting deployed to, and it'll automatically figure out how to show it on the application. So we're going to be seeing about that as well. All right, I'll just give you a quick understanding, and we'll get started with writing code. That's what I'm planning on doing. So in this class, we're going to be building a complete Flutter app. And when I say this class, I mean to say this entire journey, or the entire part. This is going to be like a part 1 of the application series, where we're going to be giving you some kind of a good understanding of the depth. Sumit, I'm not able to understand your question, so let me go back to this. When you say this part, yeah, this is actually like, think of it just similar to think of it as, it doesn't matter, right? It's still the UI screen. It's not going to matter much. For answering Sumit's question, yes, it might be different, but as long as the display is available, it will render the same thing. So Ayush, no, this class is not connected to the previous session. This is like a standalone class. We're just kind of going again and understanding all the basic concepts, and from there on we're going to be continuing. That's what this whole thing is about. So if you see, this is not like, you'll still be able to understand the basics of Flutter and things like that, and only then we'll be carrying forward. But the upcoming classes, or upcoming streams, will be primarily targeting around the concept of Flutter, and we'll be learning few advanced and complex concepts, so that it's like we have a series of videos around the same topic. All right, so that's what this is going to be like, a first class for the entire thing. Yeah, so what did this class do? Like, we're going to be planning to build a complete Flutter app. When I say a complete Flutter app, I mean to say, like, you have a good UI page, you click on a button, you open multiple pages, and that's what you're going to be planning to do. And we're also going to be understanding what's state, and how this state is actually managed within an application, And as the classes go forward, you're also going to be learning about storing it in a DB, and all of that are also going to be coming up. And it's also going to be hands-on session, meaning on your local laptop or your local desktop, you need to have few things downloaded. But for this session, it doesn't matter. You can have a browser and you can practice the code along with me. I'm going to be dropping a link right now. Yeah. All right, so I'm dropping a link in the chat right now, and you can also use the same link for building stuff, right? Yeah, my recommendation is Visual Studio Code, but I'm actually using Android Studio. Not much of a difference. You can still use anything that you really have in your local setup. All right, so let's get moving. And we've been talking about declarative style in the last 3 streams continuously, actually. But what declarative style does is that it's actually giving a very easy way of writing code. So far, what is happening is that you will have like an object A is equal to object of A. You will declare it in the form of a class, and you'll have a B is equal to class B. You will declare it, and then only then, after you have created an object of things, you'll be able to do like get something, or or you'll be able to call any method or variable or anything of that sort. But what is going to be pretty much useful is that starting from declarative style, or starting from the Dart's recent releases, what they've done is they've completely removed the syntax in this way. Like there is no more syntax that is going to be this way. All the syntax is going to do is to basically say text, open brackets, close brackets, and you'll have a key like value, and you'll fill the value. Value is hello, and then you will say style, and you will say its style is say font weight or font height or things like that can actually be a given. And this is pretty much how the entire declarative style of programming is going to be. It's like very simple. There is no need to declare anything. There is no need to call functions. There is no need to do anything of that sort. This is still there in Dart, but with Flutter, everything is in the form of this way. You just need to know the class and how you want to place that class. And once you know about it, it's very simple to construct a UI on the application. So let's get moving. We're going to have a couple of things ready as given in the description for this session. You will actually need to have either Flutter or the Android Studio downloaded, or the Visual Studio Code downloaded. Once you have that downloaded, we're going to be building the application right from the start. So this is actually a very simple application. I'm going to be showing you what happens. This is something that we built in the previous session. Count the number of lines here. That's about 89 lines, right? And most of this is very, very simple, which I'm going to be talking about in about a minute's time. So let me spin a local host. I just need to spin a local host, which is going to be I'll open a simulator. I can go back, I can go to right somewhere around tools and AVD manager. So already have a couple of simulators created or emulators created. I'm trying to open this one. Let's see if this opens up fine. Size on disk is 10, which is kind of huge. Vibe data, yes. And I'll open this. It says unable to locate ADB. Okay, it's opening up. All right, so the emulator is opening up right on my screen. Just let it open up for some time. I'll just close this, and I should be able to see this once this is fired up. So I'm going to be doing a combination of Android Studio along with the emulator, and trying to like write few lines of code, and you'll be seeing how fast this entire thing is getting set up. So the setup actually is very simple. Again, all you need to do is just find the flutter.dev, go to the URL there, and you'll find the simple steps to set things up. And this is something that it's not going to take not even 1 minute of your time. And just go set things up, and once that is done, you will have something similar to this. You will have your IDE, and you'll have even a base main.dart file created, and that's what is going to be the main entry point for us to this application. So let me wait for the emulator to fire up. Probably it's going to take another 20 seconds, I guess. So hopefully it does not take more time. Okay, it's loaded up. Drop a comment if you cannot hear if you cannot see anything clearly. Still looking at the feed, it's looking fine. But if you guys cannot see anything, just let me know. I'll zoom it in some more time, some more bit. Right, so I'm just waiting for the emulator to fire up. Actually, once that is fired up, we're going to be looking into a few base concepts as to what a state is and how Flutter is doing that, and we're going to be starting with understanding about VoidMain and what is a run app and how do you get a Flutter application as an Android application. So everything is going to be talked about once this emulator is completed. All right, I'm guessing it's going to take so much time. So let's get moving on to the next concept, which is actually very important for us to understand. And this is something that you will see in almost every Android related application, right? There is something called as the Android life cycle. Everything has to start somewhere and everything has to die somewhere. You open an application, let's say you open an application, and the application is you're doing all sorts of funny things inside it, and suddenly you're deciding, okay, I'm done with this application, I'm going to close this application. And how does a computer or how does a mobile phone understand it? How does an OS, like say an Android, or how does an iOS understand it? And it's understanding it basically with help of these methods only. There are basically only about 10 methods that this entire life cycle of the Android application is going to be put into. First is the on create, and then on start and on receive, meaning that every application has to start somewhere and every application has to die somewhere. And that's basically called as the life cycle of the mobile application. And Flutter is very, very similar to this. It's actually mimicking the same concept of birth and death, and it's actually giving birth to a screen by calling the on build. And similarly, on destroy is basically when the screen is destroyed, right? So this is going to be the two concepts or the methods. I don't know why my pen tab is not working fine on build. I think there's some liquid on it, that's why it's not working fine. I'll figure it out. Hopefully it's nothing. All right, so Ayush asks, is everything is same for VS Code and Understood Recording? Yes, it's completely same. There is no much of difference. Both of them are from IntelliJ. I think VS Code is from Microsoft. Anyway, so the IntelliJ is actually handling all the plugins for Dart and Flutter. So it's going to be very, very, very similar. There is nothing major difference that is going to be present. All right, so we have the code created, and we have the emulator setup. So what happens is that once you completed setting up your Flutter, you'll have like a main.dart file and things like that. Have your emulator also fired up, and just click on this run button. What will happen is it will go here, it will start some main.dart analysis, and it will automatically connect to this and fire up. Okay, actually this should be it. Stop that. That's running in another. It's running in another file. Okay, it got a little bit confused. This is going to be the emulator. This is the SDK phone that we have. I'm going to run it on this now. So it's going to take some time to do something called as a Flutter build. So that's where you're converting whatever you're writing here, all the Flutter code, into an equivalent APK. APK is what you're seeing. So let's say that this is the application that you have. You open this emulator, you have like a Google Chrome, you have your message, you have your calendar, clock, Gmail. All of these are basically APKs or APKs in Android package kit. And what happens is that when you're building your Flutter application, it's converting all the Flutter code into an equivalent Android code and is pushing inside our emulator and showing it to us. And all of this happens in a very, very fast manner that you will feel like you are writing super fast Android applications. All right. So let it take some time to build, and it'll go on carrying about the concepts that I'm actually looking to share. So there are two important concepts, right? The one is that's called as the widget. And a widget, like I've been telling that these are basically building blocks. You can think of building blocks again like a Lego set. You have a big Lego set here. Already have a big Lego set and you're trying to build things right there. And you are putting one top, putting another one here, putting one here, putting one here, and like you're having some fun building and doing things on top of each other. And what happens is that this is the same way that the Flutter is also trying to work. Everything is called as a widget. We are calling it as a block. The application or the framework calls it as a widget. And widgets are the building blocks of our application development. And if you take anything, it will be a widget, that the base class will be a widget. So if you take a text, I don't really know why this is happening. Right here. If you take a text, it will be a widget. If you take a button, it will be a widget. Similarly, if you take anything that you want, all of those are going to be a basic widget. And that's how your application itself is going to be created. You have a base, think of this as like a layout, and on top of the layout you have a bunch of widgets connected, and that's what is going to be giving you a final application. So that's going to be the basic of it. Let's move on. And once you have the understanding of what a widget is, you need to understand about two important things. One is stateless widget and another is a stateful widget. And this again is a concept that I've talked about in the past in the couple of live streams that we have in detail. So a quick understanding or glance of what a stateless widget is that you take hold of any information that is not going to change throughout the life cycle of an application. For example, let's say you have your title bar. The title bar is not going to change. It's going to stay there forever. And what you will do is you'll make it a stateless, meaning there is nothing that it needs to do, right? Just create it once, let it sit on the application, and it will always be there. And you just create that Lego block, you'll put it there and you leave it. And that's what you're trying to do. And that's what is a stateless widget. The data inside it need not know what happened before, it need not know what is going to happen next. All of those things can be categorized as a stateless widget. On the other hand, a stateful widget is basically when you're saying that I'm going to be loading some data or bunch of data from a cloud. I'm going to be loading bunch of data from basically say from a remote location, right? You are continuously going to get the data, cricket score, all of those are going to be continuously being bought. And what happens then is that you are trying to say, I'm going to get that data, so I need to have an equivalent Lego block or a widget to continuously change the data. So when you want to continuously change data, that data is basically what we call as a state. The state of the application changes. So what you're going to do is make sure that the widget is stateful. So these are two important widgets. How do you differentiate between them? There is nothing complex to differentiate between them, and you can interchangeably use them, nothing much, as long as you don't want to increase the size of your APK. And as you start building applications, you will know how to categorize them. So that's what you also going to be trying to do as part of this series. All right, so I've written write stateful and stateless widget. So let's go, and you can see that the building is completed, meaning that the application is completed. And so Aish asks, what is Gradle build? So I'll tell what a Gradle build is. And if you see the concept of Android, right? And Android is basically one of the oldest OS creators, right? And what happens during this time, what happened when they were starting to develop was they wanted to have a mechanism to convert your Android XML code into an APK. And in order to do that conversion, they needed kind of a mechanism or a framework that will do all sorts of reading the class files, it will read all the XML files and read all the resource files, and finally give out the data in the form of an APK that can be installed into your application or installed in your phone, and it will show to the user. And that framework is called as Gradle. So Gradle is basically the background daemon or background task runner that will take care of compiling all the code for us, and it will basically give out an APK. So that's the thing that you really want to know. And what Flutter does is that for Android, it just converts all our Dart files into an equivalent Java file, equivalent Kotlin file, and it will be probably giving it out in helping the Gradle, triggering the Gradle run, and it will be able to see. So just to take a look into it, you can see there are two folders here. Once you are creating the entire package, you can find there are two folders here. One is for Android and then one is for iOS. So let me close the iOS. But if you see inside Android, this is actually the same structure as to how an Android package will work if you're going to build it natively. And what is happening is that everything that you're writing here is getting converted into an equivalent Android package, and it's actually triggering the Gradle for us, and that's what this application is also showing on the right. So this is an application that we built not so long ago, about 4 weeks, 2 weeks. Yeah, last week we built this application, and this is something that is actually going to very beautifully cover both the stateful as well as the stateless widgets. So let me quickly remove all the things from here, and we'll try to like construct everything. So you have seen two important concepts. One is a stateful and one is a stateless widget, and I'm going to be sharing with you how to create basically two stateless as well as stateful widget. So let me remove it from here. Yeah, I think this might throw some error. So let me quickly check all those places where it does not throw any error. All right, does not throw any error. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. We'll remove the navigator push. This comes as part of concept called as routing. All right. All right. So what is really happening is that we are trying to create something called as a stateless widget. And let me actually push it down so we are not getting confused. So this is the base code that is required in order to start writing your Flutter application. This is something that we're going to try to build, but if you run it now, nothing will happen. What I'm trying to do is to start writing an application that's going to look something like this. Now, this is a very big emulator. Let me show it something like right somewhere here. Yeah, this is enough. And I'm going to try to show this one. What is really happening? Okay, this is much better. Excuse me. Excuse me, guys. Sorry about it. So what we're trying to do is to basically run or build this application. How do you get started with that? How does the Flutter know that you're going to get started with your application? And how it knows is that you're going to be using the method called as VoidMain. Now, VoidMain is a very famous kind of a method call, meaning that everything that is going to start from the main function, and the main function is not going to have any return type. So if you want to really start a Flutter application, you need to definitely have the void main. Only if the void main is there, and it should be there in a file that you're going to trigger, only if that is there, your application will probably start. All right, so this is what is the basic of it. And inside your void main, we're going to be having the first method called as the run app. So remove this material app. I'll just remove it for now. And if the run app is called, only if the run app is called, it means that you are saying run my Flutter application. So that's going to be like an entry point. You need to have a main function followed by a run app to enter into the application. All right. So let's get to the next part. Now, what we are saying is we are saying to build a Flutter we are going to say to build something called as a material app. Now, I just need to quickly draw like a similarity or difference between something called as a material app and another called as a Cupertino app. Now, material app is nothing but a set of standards that Google has defined to make sure that the application looks similar in one form or the other. Let's say that you want to open your Gmail font, everything inside it is very, very similar to your Google Drive font. And if you take any of the G Suite product, right, you can take Gmail, YouTube, Google Drive, you can take photos. All of these are Google related G Suite, meaning G Suite related applications. And if you take them, all of them look almost similar, right? They give you that sense of similarity, and they also give you the sense of already having used it multiple times. And in order to get that kind of a psychological feeling, they came up with multiple set of rules for creating good UI applications, and all of those are called as material concepts. And Flutter uses the concept of material app to give you a very simple introduction, or giving you set of templates to have all of these. Basically, this is called as a top bar, and this is called as a body, and button should look like this. And you can even create your own custom buttons, but if you just create a simple button, it will look always like this. And these are called as material app or material set of rules. So that's what we're trying to do here. We're creating a class called as material app, and we're giving it a title. We're just saying this is my first app, and when you're trying to publish this is the title that will come. And the theme is basically going to be theme data primary swatch is going to be color blue. So whatever you give the primary swatch here, everything will change right there. So that's basically how you're saying that follow the same template throughout the application. So whatever page you create, whatever number of pages you create, it will have the same set of rules defined, or same set of UI rules defined. All right, so let's try to change something like this here. Let me try to change like amber like amber much. Right, I'm trying to save it up. It's doing something called as a file. It's also doing a reload, and you can see for yourself that it will probably change. Right, is it saved up? just trying to do a hot start, hot restart, and syncing file. This is actually syncing it to the file right here. Right, let's see how it works. All right, awesome, right? So what we have done is not changed all the colors everywhere. No, I didn't change the color to the top bar. I didn't change the color to the button or anything of that sort. I just changed to my primary swatch and it kind of changed right here. So think of this as this is going to be like your mantra, right? If you want to start a Flutter application, these are the 4 or 5 important lines of code that you definitely need to know. And most of the time it will auto complete for you. Just to say, for example, if you want to run app, you can just say material app, you can just type material app and it will automatically show that it will automatically auto complete for you. And you go to material app and it will have bunch of properties that you need to define. What happened? Okay. Right, so you can then give your title, it'll automatically auto complete for you. I'm not doing it in the right place, but I'm saying this is how you do. All right, so next important variable is called as the home variable. Now you've defined the outer layer, you're basically like painting your house. You have defined what the window should be and what is the window dimension. You have also defined the color for the house and all of that. Now you're going to try to enter inside your house and start building your interior. You're going to place your furniture, you can do all of that stuff, and that is where your home variable comes into picture. You're starting with your home variable. You are going to say that I'm going to be using a very simple widget, and everything, like I said, inside Flutter is a widget. So how do you define your first widget? In your Visual Studio Code or your Android Studio, all you need to do is just type STL. If you type STL, it'll consider it as stateless. If you type F, it'll consider it as a stateful. So I'm just going to try to define a stateless widget. So just type STLESS and it'll auto complete it for me. It will just ask for the name of the class alone and it will just inherit from a stateless widget. So just saying that, for example, I call it as home page. All right, what I'm saying is that I'm creating a class that is a home page named as home page, and it is actually a stateless widget, meaning that it need not always remember the state that it's actually taking. It could be like a simple maybe one corner of the house that you want to painting, or you're trying to decorate one corner of the house. That is not always going to change. But let's say that you're trying to then go and adjust your dining table. There might be food on the dining table at some time, there might not be food on the dining table. So this is kind of a dynamic data, right? You want to continuously reload that. But in the case of, like, say a TV stand, right, you're not always going to change things in the TV stand. It's that just going to remain there forever until you go in and make some changes. And that's basically how you're going to be constructing this. You're saying this is the home page, and this entire home is going to have like a stateless widget to it, meaning it's not going to hold multiple states. If it needs in the future, it can hold a state. That's what you're trying to say. One more thing that you need to understand is that you're constructing now like a building block. You're just having one base block, on top of that you're putting another block, on top of that you're putting another block, and it keeps on going. It's like a pyramid. It keeps on piling up to one point at the top. And if you once you kill that page, everything will get killed. It's like building a tree and you're just chopping the tree off. And after you want to come back to the page after some time, it will again build from the ground up. So that's why the stateless widget is very, very useful. If you don't have much state for it to remember, it will quickly construct it and will finish that application. If there are some states for it, let's say that you want to remember the state of the previous time it was opened, or it's trying to remember some data from from the internet, it wants to fetch some data from the internet, all of that is coming in the picture. It's going to take some time to build it. Extremely sorry, guys. Sorry for this again. All right, so we're just talking about the stateless widget and the stateful widget. So this is the class, this is the syntax for creating a stateless widget. Now let's see what is the syntax for creating a stateful widget. So like I said, go back to your Visual Studio Code or Android Studio, type stf, it will try to autocomplete for you. As soon as I hit enter, it is doing like it's actually creating two classes. I'll tell you why it happens. Now I'm just going to go here. I'm going to type it as home state full page. So whatever I type here, it's actually also auto-filling it for me right here. So it's like something I don't need to really worry about. So what a stateful widget is doing at this point of time is creating a method called as a CreateState. So this is the same tree example that I told right now. You want to build something from the ground up. It is actually trying to always create a new state. Whenever a stateful widget is defined, it will always try to create a new state in every refresh of the page. On a stateless widget side, it will not do any of that. You give it, it will just create it once and leave it at that. But on the stateful widget side, it will always try to create a new state and try to refresh the state every time the page refreshes. Somebody goes out of the page, comes back into the page, it will keep on doing the refresh stuff. So this is how you create your stateful as well as stateless widgets, and this is the syntax for that. All right, now you're thinking, how do I create this? I have an image here, I have a text here, I have another text here, and I have a submit button here. How do I create this? That's what you're going to be now trying to look into. So we've already done that. So I'm just going to quickly explain that basically. I've created a class called a screen1, and the screen1 is extending the stateless widget. So this is actually going to be entire page is going to be stateless. So every time the application loads, this is the same screen that I'm going to say. I'm not going to see anything extra. All right. Now, this is the method that is going to be useful for us. So like I said, right, every time you create a page, there is something called as a on build or a build that is going to get fired. When the page is killed, on destroy is going to get fired. So inside our build method, we are primarily going to be using a widget called as a scaffold. So the scaffold widget is going to be the game changer for us. So let me just take this alone because I like this image very much. So I'll just try to save this up and I'll try to show you guys how this entire thing works. All right, close it up. All right, I'll just close it up and we will remove the entire thing and you'll return as scaffold. As soon as I hit scaffold, it will actually take the first one. So I'll just save this up so you can see nothing is coming on the right. Everything is gone. This is like a plain screen now. So just save this alone for now. All right, this is a plain screen. Now I need to add a top bar to this. So in order to add a top bar, this is this declarative style that I've been talking about. You just say AppBar. AppBar is the widget or AppBar is the key name. And I know this because I've actually seen the documentation. If you go inside, you have the documentation. It says that it takes an app bar, which is a horizontal bar typically shown on the top of an app. And then it takes a bottom bar. The bottom bar is a bottom horizontal bar typically shown on the bottom of the application. Then you can also take a floating action button. Then it can take a drawer, it can take a bottom navigation bar, bottom sheet, scaffold state. It can take all of these variables. And this is how I know that this widget is very, very useful, because this is going to give me the application's entire body. Just by creating this widget, I can now show something here. So let's quickly go and write it. So I'm just going to create the app bar. App bar is basically going to be the top of the bar. So let's say app bar. All right, and I'm just going to give it a title. The title is going to be a text, and the text is going to take the value assignment. All right, I'll save this up, and as soon as you can see, I've not given it any color, I've not given it any kind of a font, but from my material app, since I'm actually calling the home screen right here, it's actually giving it its own properties and creating an application for me. So this is how you create your top bar, and this is the first step of creating your Flutter application. The next step that you're going to do is inside your scaffold, after the app bar is created, you're going to now create the body of the scaffold. This is going to be the head. Your top bar is going to be the head, and next thing you're going to create is the body of the entire application. Now you can take container, you can do something called as a center. All of these are basically simple widgets to hold or bring together a bunch of widgets. That's what I'm going to try to do next. So I'm just going to create a widget called as container. All right. The container now takes a parameter called as a child. Now child is basically saying container is there and I can just attach some kind of a child to it. Whatever properties the container has, the child would also have. So that's the whole meaning of it. And the reason why we are going to a container is to bring bunch of things together into one place. I don't want to scatter things everywhere. I want to bring things into one place so that it's easy for me to change the layout and things like that later. So I'm going to create a container as the body. The child is going to be a column. All right. And the column will now take bunch of things. Now column is to actually have one below the other, right? A row will be one after another in left to right fashion. Column, on the other hand, will be from top to bottom. You can have multiple widgets on the top to bottom front. So it's going to take now a variable called as children, and I'm going to get started. So I've just given a container to obviously bring everything together. Followed by that, I'm saying everything inside the container is going to be inside a column. So it's one below the other, and I'm going to be defining my children. Any doubts till here, guys? I've been just writing code, so I just not asked anything. So I'm open to take any questions. We'll get started of the next part after confirming if you guys have any questions. Let's open for questions now. So once this page is completed, I'm just going to be trying to talk about the topic for the next session. Since I'm actually short pressed for time, I'm just trying to write some code so you guys can understand, give you guys a brief explanation of what we have done so far. So in upcoming sessions, you can easily pick things up and that'll be very easy for you. What about the Apple phone for AppBar? You don't have to worry about it. Now, if you see here, this is actually the example for an Android phone. An Android phone does not have like this complete thing. There might be a camera here, or that might be a camera here. You don't worry about it. If the display is cut, however you want it, the application, the Flutter will take care of showing it for you. And if you really want to not have this bar at all on the top, you just don't define your app bar. If you don't define your app bar, this bar won't come. So basically, you are in control of seeing how this entire thing works. Hopefully I answered your question. So this is the example that you asked again from here, right? If you see, this is actually the UI for an Apple iPhone or iPhone looking application, and this is actually the way the display is cut. The display screen is cut in that way, and irrespective of that, the application, the Flutter will show. Let's think that it's actually showing right this here also. It's actually showing some data here also, but since the display is cut right here, the Flutter is capable of understanding that this is the maximum top I can go, so it will automatically put this right here. So basically this is how the whole thing is constructed. So it's all about Flutter doing it on the back end without us having to worry much about it. Alright, so I'm just going to get moving since I'm guessing that none of you have any questions. Next thing I'm going to do is to write to center the whole thing. Inside my column, I'm just going to say center, and I'm just going to start writing it. Alright, the center is going to get a child. I'm just going to say text, and the text is going to be assignment number. I'll save it. Right, assignment number is coming to the center of the screen. I'll take another center. I'll define, since I want to have one below the other, I'll just be putting inside the column. So I'll just take another center, and this time the text will be student number. Save it up again. It's coming pakka. Next one I want to have is the date of birth. I'll just say date of birth. Date of birth. All right, date of birth is also created. This is a simple text that I'm putting. Now is the time for me to put a simple image on the screen. So I'll just put center again. I'll have a center created, and the child will be an image dot network. So basically I'm saying this image is going to be from a remote URL. So I just need to pass the URL to the space, and I'll be able to show an image right here. So let me go find the URL of Dhoni. Go back here, and you put it right here. Save this up now, and you will see that the image is showing right here. Now that's how you construct your entire thing one by one, piece it together, and we aren't writing anything complex now. We're just doing something by just piecing things together. We're just having a bunch of text, We are putting it, and suddenly we have a good looking application that is getting created. Now your next step is to now have a button created, right? So let me put another center, and it's going to take a child. The child will now take a button. So I'll just call it probably a flat, or flat button is not there. Raised button, raised button is also not there. So a button, you can have any kind of a button, but let me find closed button, drop down button, elevated button. All right, elevated button is what I want. Now if I go to elevated button, all right, it's saying that elevated button requires child is required and on press is required. This is the two important things that it requires. So child is going to be a text, and it's going to be possibly saying submit data. All right, and it's also saying that it requires an on pressed. So on pressed will be fired whenever the button is clicked. So you can either have an empty function that is something like this, or you can even just leave. You cannot leave your on pressed, so just have to create an empty function just for this button to be created. So just save this up now again, and you will see that a simple elevated button is created. So basically you have now seen how to create your text, how to show an image on the screen, and how to add a button. Now, the next step from here is to add some functionality to it. That's the whole idea behind functional app, right? If you click on this, nothing is happening. It is giving all the beautiful animation and things like that, but nothing is happening. Now, what if I want to click on this? I want to open a new screen. What if I want to send this data to a remote location? And that's pretty much what is going to be the concentration for us in the upcoming video. So basically, that's what I'm going to trying to concentrate and give you guys in upcoming videos. So I have few other important slides as well, and you can see that I've talked about a bunch of stateful, and we also return it. And the next step we'll be talking about is what are the different widgets available. I'll just show this. You can see for yourself like what are the different widgets that are available. All right, let me show from here itself. Flutter UI catalog, that's called as a widget catalog, and you'll see for yourself that there are a bunch of widgets that can be used. You can have anything starting from as simple as like the accessibility, animation and motion, assets, images and icon, layout, input, and all of those things can be useful. And you can just go inside and you can actually see for yourself a bunch of other things as well. So you go inside display, right? And it says default text style, rich text is also there. And this is the widget that we use. Just use the simple text. And rich text is useful when you want to like copy some text and go to another page and paste it. So if you want to give that copy attribute to your text, you can just use a rich text. And you can see that these are the bunch of catalogs. I mean, these are the bunch of categories within which your widget may lie or may not lie. So that's how you kind of like use this catalog to see what is that you want, take it and just put it into your application. That's how you're going to be creating a bigger application towards the end of this series. So I'm just going to take a break from here and like ask you guys if any questions are there. And if there's no questions, I'll try to be available for, I'll be open for questions for another 5 to 10 minutes. And I just move on to the next section and understand much more about Scaffold. We did understand about Scaffold, and we'll understand more about how the state management works and how the routing in Flutter works and all of that. So let's open for questions now. If you guys have any questions, let me know. And I'll take a small break in the meantime. So how many of you guys watching this stream right now have any experience with either mobile programming or web programming? Now, we did learn more about it we talked about web programming in the previous session actually. And so I'd just like to know how many of you guys have understanding of web or mobile or any of this technology, so that it's easy for me to construct the upcoming videos, construct the upcoming series of videos as well. Anybody? Awesome. So Sumit is just learning Flutter. That's great. Thanks for choosing this stream in particular. And yeah, it's a good thing. It's a good thing that you're trying to learn Flutter. And it's important that you try to piece things together and do some kind of a self learning as well. Because like anything that I say or anything that anybody else says, it's primarily going to be useful as long as you practice it for yourself. If you don't practice it, it's not going to be very useful. All right, so I just wanted to show you guys this simple GIF. It's something that I took from the internet again, and this is not something that I created or anything of that sort. This is something I took off the internet, and it's a very, very, very good example of how the Flutter as a framework creates the widgets. Now, this is something like that I've been saying. So if you see here, if you click on this My Cart button, sorry about this, had an internet kind of a shortage, so that's a buffering problem. Anyway, so I was talking about how this is a very good GIF to understand how the Flutter is thinking in terms of creating the widgets. So this is going to be the first screen, and after you move to the second screen, it's actually creating all of these things. And as soon as this is completed, this entire thing is going to be killed, and this new thing is going to be opened. So basically what happens is that this is how you're going to be creating your application. It could be a stateless widget, it could be stateful widget. Stateful widgets might hold a stateless widget and things like that. It's going to be a simple tree, one way or the other. And at the end of the day, you're going to be creating a very good application by piecing things together. It could be a stateless widget, stateful widget, bunch of other widgets as well. And that's how you are going to be expanding your application. So this is going to be what something that I wanted to really convey through this GIF. All right, so we'll get moving along, and I'll just talk to you guys about one simple concept of something called as the routing in Flutter. Now, routing in Flutter is the single important concept that is going to give you the concept of functionality. Click on a button, I need to go to a new screen. So let's say that this is the example that we have. And if the user clicks on the button enter, it moves to a new screen. And only if it moves, if only if the application is having some functionality, when how do you define a functionality? When you see some change on the screen. If I'm going to show you the same screen again and again, and just going to have all the changes happening here itself, that is not a functionality. When you click on this button, you need to show some kind of a new page or some kind of a new change on your UI, and that's how you're going to be defining your functionality. So next step is called as routing. Routing is like creating routes, routing or routing. You're just going to be creating or paving the path for say that think of yourself as an Uber application. You're giving a point A to point B, distance from point A to point B, and you're saying take this route, and this is how you're going to go to your destination. And that's exactly what routing also does. All right, so let's try to define it. So we have created one stateless widget. So let's create another stateless widget. So how do you do that? Just the STLESS, and now we're going to create our second screen. So the second screen is screen 2. I don't know why my numpad applications are not working. All right, screen 2. Now this is the second screen, and it's basically having or returning a container. I can again return the same kind of my scaffold as well. So I'll just return my scaffold, and the scaffold should have an app bar, and app bar. All right, we can use this scaffold template from here as well. Just do this, close this, go here, close this. All right, this is complete. The next step is to go here, and as you see, the body is returning a container. It's if you're going to try to move from one screen to another, try to move or try to create your second screen as simple and as similar as your first screen. So I'm just going to create another body. It's going to have a container, and the container is going to be having a child. The child is going to be a column, right? The column has something called as the children, and the children is basically where we're going to be writing. So I'll just put this center, and I'll just say child is going to be text. We are in screen 2, right? So I talked about the concept of routing specifically in the second session of the Flutter for mobile, and it's like a very detailed understanding of how routing works. But for this one, I'll still try to explain it as in depth as possible. So what I'm going to try to do now is to show some kind of a change from screen 1 to screen 2. So this screen 1 is basically this one. We have text, 3 text, 1 image, one button. And when I click on this button, I need to show the screen 2, and that's basically what our routing is. So if you go here, you will see that there are 4 important ways to go. One is to route from a widget to another widget, and you can come back. That's basically the first step of routing. And you can also create named routes. Basically, you can say that if you're going to be going to the same destination again and again every day, you'll probably name the route, right? So, for example, this is my school route, or this is my work route, and you will just say this is my my grandparents' route, and things like that. This is, you're just naming the uh, route that you take from your source to your destination. Similarly, you can also do that in Flutter. And also, next step is to transfer some data. Now, what you're doing, not just coming from your source to your destination, now you're also taking some or bringing some data along with you. You're just taking some data from your school to your house. You're taking some food from your house to your parents' place or something like that. And that's the transfer of data. Now, if you see Flutter, everything is looking very similar to what we do on an everyday basis. Basically, this is how you do, and that's what they're trying to closely mimic, making it super easy for us to understand the concept of routing. So that's what I'm trying to show you guys. I'm going to show you primarily the routing between the widget back and forth, and also talk about transferring data, and also doing something called as an animation using the hero class. So let's try to do that in this session. You can stop me up anytime right now to ask any questions. This might go for another 15 to 20 minutes, and I'll probably be ending the session. So this is the right time to ask any questions, and let's get moving. All right, I'll wait for another 1 to 2 minutes for you guys to ask questions, and then I'll talk about doing this routing concept. So we can do any number of routes that you want to. So Sumit asked like how many routes we can do. We can do any number of routes. So basically that, let's say that you are creating another screen 3 here, stateless. I'm going to call it a screen 3. Now what you can do is you can go from screen 1 to screen 2, screen 1 to screen 3, screen 2 to screen 3, and basically you have 3 routes. And similarly, you can do any number of routes. You can transfer data from any place to any place, and that's pretty much possible. So yeah, you can consider them as page to page, or you can consider them as a widget to widget. So basically this entire page, right, is still a widget, because that's what you have done. You have defined a material app, and the screen 1 is actually returning a scaffold. Scaffold is a widget. So this entire thing is a scaffold, which is going to be a widget. So basically you are trying to change from one return of a build to another return of a build, or one widget to another widget. You can, if you want to call it in plain terms, you can call it as page. But if you want to really call it in a technical term, it's actually a widget to widget transfer. So that's what we're going to be trying to do. So I'm trying to now just do some kind of a navigation. So when I click on this button here, and I already have a method defined, so I just need to say that go to screen 2. I just need to tell it to go to screen 2. So let me do some print. I can just print some data here so we can see how the logging part works. I'm just going to say some data like this is navigating to screen. All right, let's save this up. We'll open this up a bit, and it'll just say click here. it'll just print the data. It's saying that this is navigating to screen 2. Now it's printing the data, but nothing is happening. I want to now make it happen. So there's going to be a class called as navigator, and this navigator class is very, very important for us to do the navigation or do this routing for us. So how we do it is just say all right, so this is what I'm going to do. We're going to be using the class called as navigator, just like I said, and we're just going to do a couple of operations. Now, this is the concept of data structures and algorithms. If you guys are following me, you will be able to understand it. Right, so Sumit asks, on pressed, what we can pass in the curve bracket, any particular. So this you needn't worry about it. So this is something like a function, right? You are creating a function like this, and if you don't want to pass anything here, what will you do? You will just remove this, right? And this is the same syntax that we are having right here also. So that's basically what this is. Not the on pressed function is not going to take any variable, so we don't have to pass anything to it, and that's the need for it. Hopefully you got it. So this on pressed is same for everywhere. Any button that you take, any on pressed, this is going to be the syntax. Right. So what we're going to do now is to understand the concept of understand the concept of stack, and stack is basically data structures and algorithm concepts. So if you guys are watching the Unacademy programming channel frequently, you will know that there's a bunch of classes running around and data structures and all of those complex topics going around. But a very simple topic of stack is very, very useful when you're trying to understand about the application development. So what a stack is, basically think of it this way. You have a big page right here, and this is going to be a screen 1. The concept of a stack says that whatever is on top, so basically you are the person from here, you are watching from here, this is your eye, you are watching from here, and whatever is on top is actually going to be seen by you, right? So for now the screen 1 is on top, so you are able to see it now. Now when you do something called as a navigation, you are saying put another screen on top. So this is going to be screen 2. This from screen 1 to screen 2, you are saying navigate to screen 2. When you say navigate, you are basically taking the screen 2 and putting it onto a stack, and that you are able to see. And how this happens is by the concept of by the class called as navigator. And the navigator has two important functions. One is called as push and another is called as pop. And if you are very familiar with the data structures and algorithms, you will be like, I mean, this is something that you see on an everyday basis if you are trying to learn about data structure and algorithms. So push is basically when you say put something on top of the stack. Pop is when you say remove the thing from the top of the stack. Think of this as a similar, basically like a simple thing that you do on an everyday basis. You want to eat 5-10 dosas. You take one dosa and put it on top of another. That's how you stack things, right? And that's similarly how the concept of stacks and data structures also work. This is a very simple data structure, and this data structure is actually being used by the Flutter to show the screens and also to provide a navigation. So that's what we're going to try to do now. What we're going to do now is from screen 1, we're just going to say push the screen 2, and that's what is going to be shown to the user. So let's go back to the code, and we're going to be saying navigator dot push, and as soon as you put the push, it says one called as context and the next called as route, and we need to now define the route for it by basically saying go down, take a left, take a right, go to the second house. That's your destination. So that's the route that you need to do. And in order to define the same for a material application or an Android application, you use something called as a material route, material page route. This is going to be the class that is going to be useful for us in order to define the route or the route that is going to be telling take this route, go here, go down, take a right, take left, and that's your destination. All right, this is going to be the class for that. Now all you need to do is just call your second method inside your builder. Again, pass your context. Builder is a simple method you'll see a lot of times. OMG, my bracket key is not working. All right, my keyboard is getting really bad. Context, and you will just say your screen 2. So basically it's saying navigator.push your current context or your current page, that is going to be screen 1, and just now defining from your current context you go to this destination by taking this route. That's what you're saying. So this is going to be the class for taking the route, and the page material page route takes a property called as builder, and the builder is nothing but it's actually a simple way of understanding for the compiler on the Flutter side to say where should I go to, and the parameter or the syntax to say the context followed by the screen 2. So when you say this, it's automatically going to get pushed and it's going to go to the second. So let's try it out. It's doing some performance or reloading syncing files till it is complete, and you go here, you click on the button, it's firing up that this is the navigation to screen 2, and it's also moving to the second screen. And basically right here we are screen 2. Now if you see here, there's an automatic back button that is showing. We did not create this back button, but when you click on this, it is taking you back to the screen 1. So click on this, taking you to screen 2, click on this, back to screen 1. And all of this is being done by Flutter itself without us having to do anything in particular. So this is the concept of routing, and this is a very important and interesting concept to know in particular because this is actually going to give you the basic functionality. Now what you can do next is to keep on improving from here. You can say next is basically add another image of probably so Sumit, yes, the syntax is available in the Flutter documentation. You can definitely use that, or yeah, you can pretty much use it from there. This is a simple kind of a syntax, nothing complex about it. Just use your navigator.push, and it takes two variables. So one is the context, which is actually given from your application itself. Second one is going to be the route. When you're defining your route, you need to tell what type of route it is. Is it a Cupertino route? It is a material page route, and that's what you're trying. So you are saying, since you're using a material application here, you're also saying take the material page route. So when you say material page route, it's going to give that kind of a transition to it. It's going to give, trying to do that kind of like a page change to it, and that's what you're trying to do. And when you want to define a material page route, you need to give a builder. Now builders are something that is going to be taking a variable, and it will do building every single time. It's not like once created, once destroyed. It's going to be building every single time, and that's the property of a builder. It's a builder, and builder is taking a context followed by the screen 2, which is the second page that you want to follow to. This is going to be the simple syntax that you need to definitely know, and by the time you finish writing this 100 times, you will have it by heart. All right, so that's pretty much it. So we can now go here and try to expand on here by saying center again. Child is going to be text. You can add another text, and the data is going to be like your final marks is right, and next will be center. All right, child. This will be like another text. Your assignment number. I don't know, I'm just doing something out of the fly. All right, just you need to now populate this data. Basically just saying we are on screen 2, and you're just going to give two variables. One is going to be your final marks and your assignment number. Both of them are going to be taken from your first screen. So this is going to be the topic of transferring data from screen using the material page route. Now, in order to transfer data, it's a very simple concept with Flutter. Transferring data is similar to creating an object of a class. Now, I told you at the start of this session that we have something called as declarative style of programming. Now, declarative style of programming is basically declaring everything. This is some simple declaration, and you are just going to pass things here. Now, how do you transfer the data from screen 1 to screen 2? The only way that you can transfer the data is when you're creating the object right here. You're just creating the screen to object right here, and you can just pass that data by saying something like this, data 1 followed by data 2, and your screen 2 should be capable of receiving it. And that's when the concept of you just need to create something called a constructor, and as soon as you create a constructor, you'll be able to pass some data pretty much easily through it. So that's what I'm going to try to do now. All right, so we'll now create the constructor for this class. So constructors are basically the only use of constructor is to handle data passage. This is true from any kind of a programming language. Even if you take Python, Java, JavaScript, the constructor's whole use is to have or provide a mechanism to take random data from outside. If a person A is wanting to send some data like 25, and person B is wanting to send data like 35, and they want to create the object of C only, and just say create an object of C with a value of 25, create an object of D with a value of 35. So when you want to pass the random data to it, you make use of the constructor. So creating a constructor in Flutter is pretty much simple. Just say screen 2, and you will have to OMG. All right, I'll just try to cut this so that I don't have to type it again. And I'll just say the key is going to be, you'll just now say the value. Now the value is basically what you want to pass. In order to get the value, you need to first define it. You just say string value, and this basically will be requiring, it will say that it's actually mandatory to pass data. You just add the key and add the required as well. We don't need to have the required, you just need to put the question mark. All right, which means that key will be automatically taken. So this is the syntax for creating your constructor. So this is going to be the constructor, and now you just say super off, you just pass your key. And this is basically just a simple syntax for creating a constructor, and you'll find that this is similar in any of the Dart related syntaxes. So if you guys are really new to Dart as well, I'm coming up with a simple series on Dart programming in the upcoming weeks. So you guys can subscribe to this channel, and I'll just cover the basics of Dart as well from the next series of videos. So that's what I'm going to be trying to do. So Sumit, yes, the constructor is primarily used to create an object, and that's a very good thing. So you are going to be creating an object by passing some random data, and when you want to do that, you are going to be doing this. So we're just going to be passing the data right here. So now you are able to pass the value, any value to it, and you can then access the data from the screen too by just calling this dot value. So just say, for example, your final marks is going to be this dot value, and when you see that, say that, it's automatically going to be put here. Now let's say that I want to create another data here. Just say string dot assignment number. Right now, how do I define that? I'll just go back here. I just say required this dot assignment number. Now I'll then be able to take hold of it by going here plus this dot assignment number. Now easily I'm able to now take some data from the screen 1 and pass it to screen 2. Now it's now, and as soon as you save it, it's throwing an error. It's saying that required parameter value must be provided. So it's saying that there is nothing provided right here because we have it as required. The data is not passed yet. So I'm just going to screen 2, go here and pass the first data. I'm just going to say the value of marks is going to be like 80. 80 is the first mark, 90 is coming. 70. Okay, 70 is only coming. 77 is my mark. All right. Followed by that, I need to pass the assignment number, right? I'll pass the assignment number as f into 2. Yeah, this is going to be my assignment number. So value and assignment number. So successfully passed the two values, save it up, and it's throwing an X error where? Why is it throwing an error? Oh my god. No, that HTML found. I don't even know how this came into picture. All right. So we have now saved it, run it, done nothing much. We just created two constructors, passed the value to it. So Sumit asks, can you use dollar in the place of plus? You can definitely do that. It's good point. You can definitely do dollar also here. My row on the top is not working. My keyboard right here is not working. So I'm trying to do as much as possible so to make this whole thing work. So you can definitely use the dollar. So that's going to be covered as part of the Dart when you are trying to do, when I'm trying to do about that, talk about that. All right, so this you can still do that, and I've now successfully passed the data from the screen 1 to screen 2. Now it's time to now check if that's working fine. Saved it, hot reload is completed. Go here and click on this, and it's just saying the navigation to screen 2 is completed, and we are also able to get the data. We're just saying the mark is 77, your assignment number is this. Successfully we have passed the data from the route or the screen 1 to screen 2 with the help of the material page route. And that's almost everything that I wanted to cover as part of this stream. And it's just going to be bringing to an end for the stream right now. It's about 90 minutes since we started. So I'll just see what else is there to cover. Yeah, we can add dependencies and all of that in the next class or next session, because from the next session, we're going to be now expanding from here. We're going to then accept uploading of files from your local directory, and then we're going to be talking about sending this file to a remote directory, and you're going to be using some kind of something called the REST API for communication, and all of that is going to be covered as part of the next session. So I'm just going to take about 5 minutes, 5 to 8 minutes to answer any of your questions, and then we'll pretty much end this stream. All right, let me open it up for questions. You guys can ask me any questions that you have. All right. All right. Time to ask questions. Fire up your questions, guys. Yes, so the plan is to in the same class. So like I said in the start of this stream, the plan from the next class is to not hold longer than 1 hour stream. So we've been having discussions with the Unacademy team, and what we've decided to do is to have a simple 45 to 1 hour class at the max, 30 to 45 minute class, and it's going to be a bunch of different sections spread out. So you'll be finding that there'll be simpler classes, 30 to 45 minutes of one topic, followed by another live session where I'm going to be doing another topic. So you will find that it's going to be even more lesser time, but the topics are going to be concentrated towards a specific concept. So even though it's not in the same stream, it'll be in a different stream, but the concepts will be of lesser time. So you'll find a bunch of learning materials, learning concepts within about 30 to 45 minutes tops. That's what the whole plan is. So hopefully that you can make use of it in the future also if you need it. All right. Dev Kamal section. So Flutter live training online class. Okay. Online class, you can make use of the same stream. So I'll be doing this for the next 2 to 3 weeks, that as far as I can see. For this whole thing is going to be about Flutter and Dart, and that's what I'm going to be concentrating on. When it comes to Flutter learning resources, I would highly recommend you guys to check this stream or check this link. So this is something that I created about 2 years ago. I think 1.5 years ago easily, and it's a simple GitHub repository where I'm actually collecting everything that I'm finding useful when it comes to Flutter and Dart. So I'm just finding it for you guys. Yeah, it's somewhere. Yeah, it's called as Flutter Dart Blueprint. It's a simple repository. It has about 17 stars on the GitHub repository. So I can go here. This is my GitHub repository. You can find the Flutter Dart Blueprint. I'll even open it up for you guys here, and it's actually basically everything that you need to do. It's free set of learning resources. How do you get started? You go to your main resource file and you'll find that I've just dropped some links as to what I find very, very useful. How do you get started with Git? How do you get started with Dart? How apps work? And then followed by that, how to get started with Flutter, and all the concepts around Flutter can be learned using this link, and develop for web and Flutter for web basics and Flutter for desktop. So this is actually continuously getting updated. The last I did was on 2019, right? And it's been more than 2 years since I touched it. I do accept it, but it's created the whole intention of giving expanding, right? If you want, you can even add anything. Just do a pull request and add any important information that you find useful, and it will be very, very useful for anybody who's watching it for the first time. So this is a good resource, and you can follow or catch up on this live stream, and you will probably be finding it useful for learning about Flutter in depth with hands-on experience. So the next session is planned for Thursday of this week. You'll be getting the reminder, or you'll see the stream getting scheduled. It'll be on 5th August of 2021. So this is this week's idea is to have as many streams as possible. So you'll find one stream on August and probably another stream on Saturday, which is going to be 7th of August. So this is a tentative plan. So state management provider versus block. This is something that I answered in the previous session as well, something similar to that. You can find that there's a bunch of people just like getting confused as to what the need for a state management is. State management is not something that is going to make your application run uber fast or anything of that sort. State management is just a tool to improve on three important categories. One is going to be maintainability, then usability, and to some extent I do understand that it's going to be providing speed in the terms of transferring data, not in terms of storing or anything of that sort. All right, so when you take the concept of block, right, and provider, both of them have their own pros and cons, but both of them do not in any way is going to be making your application go or run super or extremely fast. The only thing that they can do is to provide you with good understanding or good application that gets you across these three important spaces. It can either provide maintainability and speed, or it can provide good usability and speed, and that's the whole idea behind state management. If you take the recent state managements like GetX package, you can take even the Flutter itself has a good state management. Both the stateless widgets and the stateful widgets, they themselves have good heap collection and good memory management. And this whole idea behind state management has been like blown out of proportions for a lot of reasons. But if you just ask me, give me one example, what is the best one? I would say block for most reason being useful when you're building smaller applications. Provider state management, on the other hand, can be useful when you're going to be building a bigger application with more than 10 to 15 different Dart files. There's a tutorial or there's a video on my channel with respect to block on how do you build or how do you build your application using the block state management. You can check that out. So I'm actually commenting and things like that from my YouTube handle only, called as Coder Monk. You can go in and you can find a complete repository or complete playlist dedicated to block state management, and you've done about 5 to 10 videos around that and talked the pros and cons with other state management tools. So post that, I stopped using any kind of state management in my application that I'm building, primarily because the Flutter itself is giving a very good way of managing states, and there is no need to like push something outside the comfort zone, and just for the sake of experimenting and just for the sake of implementation you're going to use it. That's not very, very useful, right? Thanks, Sumit. Thanks for joining the stream as well. hopefully I answered all of your questions. I'm going to be just waiting for another minute so that yeah, hopefully you guys don't have any more questions, and I'll be dropping from the stream. So that's pretty much it from me. Let me wait. All right, so it looks like there is no more questions. Thanks again for joining, everybody. Bunch of people joined, and it's great to have all of you people spending your time on a Wednesday or a Tuesday evening. I'm going to be seeing you guys in the next stream. Probably you'll find me with a couple of, or maybe 3 to 4 more new videos around, or view streams around Flutter, and I'll have equal amount of videos on around Dart as well. So keep subscribing to keep staying subscribed to the channel, and also you can check out a bunch of my other classes on the Unacademy platform as well. It's a free platform. We also talk about building server-side applications. We also talk about bunch of concepts around software engineering, how I got into Amazon as a software developer engineer, and all of those are also going to be discussed in the Unacademy platform. So all you need to do is just go sign up. It's a free platform again, and you can just let me know what you guys think. So if you want to really sign up, you can access free content by using this invite code. You don't need any kind of like a promo code or anything. Nothing. I'm not going to make any money by when you use it. But if you want to access free content or any content of free nature, you can just use my free invite code, which is codermonk. Just use this, and you will be getting, this is going to be the free invite code, right? If you want to watch anything for free, this run this, and you will be able to access all the free content. I don't make any money if you do that. That's the honest reason. All right, just see you guys in the next one. Probably you can have any questions that you have, you can write to me, or you can hit me up on Instagram or LinkedIn. I'll see you guys next stream. Until then, it's Bharat. Have a have an awesome day.